You have Buckland, right?
How about
Buckland.
how about
Like what 10? Really 10, but 8. Will you say mama? Huh?
how much? Was it just one sheet?
Yeah, it's on one side. I got it. And they got?
How you got it?
I put it the other set, the copy is the book. Let me see.
Well, you have to do that.
I do that.
No. The Freudian set.
Hi, good afternoon, guys. How are we doing today?
Good and very hot.
Good day, good day.
Hey,
Good afternoon. How are we doing today?
good afternoon.
Good.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm having some little technical difficulties, but we still have only 11 persons here, and it's supposed to be 20. And so we'll give persons 2 more minutes to come in, just so they don't miss anything. Okay, is that good?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I see for the most part, persons sent in their homework. The cross marker tried to get it back out. So everybody who would have completed their homework should now have a grade. But I was kind of disappointed in the grades for the last homework. And that was exactly what I tried to warn persons about. Do not wait until the last question to find out that you do not understand. We had at least 10 pieces of homework and only one person out of 10 got 100%. Okay, and a lot of persons got below 70. Okay, so please listen to the recordings. And the thing about it is, in 2 separate recordings, I gave the answer to that question. Last class and the class prior to that one. And so I was very surprised that that person still did not understand. Okay, so before you do a homework, please listen to the chapter that the homework comes out of to ensure that you understand.
Miss Bullard, for
Yeah.
the recordings, they weren't up on time.
Okay, when you say they weren't up on time, what does that mean?
Because the
homework was due?
No, for the last class especially, I wanted to go over, to listen over again for some of the pointers that you gave out.
But that homework was from chapter 5 and 6.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, just to go over the list. I mean, the recordings
but you didn't need to listen to. You needed to listen to chapter 5 and 6. You didn't need to listen to last class recording.
No, I didn't finish mine's long time.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. So if you were doing chapters, that homework that came out of 5 and 6,
5 and 6, yes.
Recording that you needed to listen to. Now you all have Miguel's contact, email address, and cell phone number. So if the recording is not up, call him directly, and you could stay on the phone while he puts it up. Yes, sometimes he does put it up late, but you could stay on the phone while he puts it up. But that particular homework was out of 5 and 6. So I just casually went over it because we were going over the review questions. You would have needed more information than what I said last class to answer that. Okay, so like I said, the key to this is organization. If you organize yourself and if you pay attention and you listen and you ask questions, then you'll be successful. But if you don't, and you wait until the last class, exactly what happened last night, and it happens every class. That's why I said, I keep warning persons, do not do it. And now persons are trying to, ask questions and for me to get it back to the cross marker to find out there's no more time left. This is it. Okay, so for those of you who are going on to intermediate, please, make sure don't do that again. Just like I said, we were very disappointed in the grades last night. Only one person, 100 out of 10 homeworks. Okay. Okay, so I see we have about 16 persons here and it's going to be recorded. And like I say, reach out to Miguel and ask him to get this recording up as quickly as possible for you. Okay, so I trust that all of you having a good week. I trust that all of you at this point have 30% and are sitting comfortably going into this exam. The exam is scheduled for the 22nd at 6 p.m. You will go into the Bahamas Institute of Financial Services, same place where you would have collected your books. You want to only take your keys and your mask. There are no accommodations for books or bags or cell phones, okay? And let me just give you some information about cell phones. People, I don't know why, but for some reason, they can't live without their cell phones. And then we have some people that'll go as far as say, what if there's an emergency? If there's an emergency, please document this number, 325-4955. Call Miss and ask to speak to Miss Dean. Miss Dean will call you out of the exam. Please, do not take your cell phone into the exam. The exam is being recorded, okay? And we have had many incidences where persons put their cell phone on vibrate, and it vibrates on the pocket, on the keys, and they get removed from the exam. Then we have somebody who dared to take their cell phone out and say this was an emergency, and they had to answer. They was also removed from the exam, because even if it's an emergency, you cannot take, you don't know that. You haven't answered the phone yet. So you cannot take your phone, you know, out during the exam. So like I said, 3254955, all the messages when you come out the exam will be there. It's for 3 hours, and you can respond to all those persons right after the exam, but please don't jeopardize yourself in the exam. Should there be an incident, the retake for the exam is $150. Now, if you don't have an excuse, which means you would have spoken to Ms. Dean and you would have arranged with Ms. Dean for us to write a separate exam for you before the 22nd and Ms. Dean agrees, that's the only way you can miss the exam, okay? Any other way, if you just don't show up, or if Ms. Dean does not agree to, you know, or the education committee does not agree to why you have to miss the exam, then you will be charged $150. Should you be removed, this is a closed book exam. I've had persons bring their review sheet. I've had persons bring books, and then they said, well, what did we do a review for? Oh, I thought we could have a cheat sheet. Okay, if you are caught cheating, which we have had persons caught cheating on several occasions, if your organization is paying for your tuition, they automatically get your grade and they find out that you were cheating. And so we've had somebody who lost their job, okay? But if you are caught cheating, if you want to take any class at the institute, you will have to go to counseling, okay? Before you are entered back into any course and before you can resit the exam. Okay, so please, you know, we've discussed a lot of information. You have a review sheet. We would have gone through the chapters. You practice on your homework. So for the most part, all of you should be well prepared and you know, ready to sit this exam on the 22nd. Okay, is everything that I've said so far clear? Are there any questions?
Hi, Ms. Bullard. Can you just repeat that number, please? I know you said it twice. But can you repeat the
Yes.
number again, please?
It's 325 4955. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
you'd have to, the exam is on Wednesday. You would have to speak to Ms. Dean by, I guess, Friday to have a excuse for not, you know, sitting in the exam. Anything else is an emergency, which you have to, I guess, afterwards provide proof. Okay, so like I said, please try your best. Okay, no keys, just your, no books, no bags, no cell phones, just your mask and your keys. Okay, we have 8 classrooms. This is a big class, so we're gonna, you know, social distance everybody throughout those 8 classrooms. Try not to be rushed and overwhelmed. Most institutions offer you 2 days study leave. Hopefully one day is the exam day. If not, please try to take your lunch hour at 4 o'clock so you could get something to eat and be relaxed. I've had persons come running in, or it was traffic, they was late and they ran out of time. Okay, Priya, you want to ask a question? Priya? Okay, I see your hand raised, so I asked. Okay, so yeah, try to, if your organization does not offer you study leave, and they have family responsibility leave, take one of those. And if you really, you know, need some extra time, then just take a vacation day. Persons have found that it's been worth it to them. Okay, but at minimum, please do not leave work at 5 o'clock trying to fight traffic to get to the institute for 6 and expect not to be overwhelmed and unprepared. Okay, it's 7 essays and 15 multiple choice questions. So what we advise persons to do is watch the clock and take 20 minutes for each question, because a lot of times persons run out of time. Okay, and then we have those scholars who think they can do all 10 questions. We will only mark the 7th essay. We will not mark the 8th. Okay, these are essay form questions, 1 pages. Okay, 1.5 the most. 10 valid points. Each question is worth 10 points. Okay, what you can do is, if question 10 is easiest for you, then answer question 10 first. Then you can go to question 5, then question 3. However, you must properly label the question. We have had persons writing question 10 first, but not putting that this is question 10 and not putting their name on each page. Sometimes the staple gets loose. Okay, put your name on every page and label your question properly. You do not have to write the question out. You just have to write that it's question number 4. Okay, Bria, are you there yet? No? Okay, I am gonna lower your hand then, okay. Yeah, are there any questions? Yeah, you was trying to speak, Bria, but we can't hear you. Could anybody else hear Bria? Yeah, Bria, I'm sorry, I could not hear you and nobody else said that they could hear you. Okay, if you run out of time, the exam is in person, it's not online. It's written in person. So the day before, let your hand rest, because the 7 essays are a lot to write, okay? Keep your hand as cool as possible and let it, don't do anything strenuous. This is a lot of writing. Okay? Yeah, only bring keys and a mask. No books, no bags, no cell phones, only keys and a mask. Colette, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Miss Bullet, question. So with these essays, what exactly are you looking for? You're looking for, like how we talked about various cases of money laundering. You're looking for examples like that?
Yes, and you get points for real life case examples. A lot of persons, what I saw in the homework was that they created a scenario. You don't get any points for creating a scenario, okay? If you have a case, a question on like I said, counterfeiting, then you would say George Floyd, lost his life over counterfeit $20. That's what you get points for. You don't get points, say you walk into a store and you didn't realize the money was counterfeit. No, you don't get any points for that. A lot of persons created scenarios. You get points for real life cases, because we are testing understanding and comprehension. Okay, and it's this scaled down version of what you did in your homework. Okay, introduction, short introduction, and then this is what I'm going to talk about: counterfeiting, fraud, and theft. And this is the definition of each. This is my case example. 10 points for each question.
I have a question. You said that we're being tested on understanding and yeah, so if we're being tested on understanding, creating a scenario wouldn't help in that. I mean, like, I understand that true event would be like you, I guess, aware of what's going on in your community in relation to the topics that we're covering.
Yeah, but that's a real life event,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's fine. A real life event, a real life case, but I didn't get that in the homework I got. say you walk into the store and your money
Oh, you
is
talking about
counterfeit.
the homework?
Yeah, I'm just saying what persons didn't get points for. They created a scenario. They didn't tell of a real life event. They didn't tell of a real life case. They made one up.
Okay, sorry, I lost my ground just now. I thought you was meaning for like the essay questions coming on the exam. Okay.
Now remember, those 4 questions that you got from homework could very well be on the exam. They are past exam questions.
So for the questions on the exam, are you also testing understanding in regards to true events?
Yes.
Okay.
Because again, remember now, you are preparing for ICA, even though you may stop here. You are preparing, and when you get to ICA, that's marked in the UK. And so everything that you remember, I said to read how they reference, everything that you write, they fact check it.
Right.
Okay. And that's another thing. You have to say, according to the Tribune, according to the Nassau Guardian. You can't just write as if, you know, you was there when this event happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so please be on time and
Ms.
make
Fuller,
sure-
just a quick question. I know it may be a silly question, but I heard you said to bring just your mask. Are they providing us with pens? I know it may sound silly,
Yeah.
but I just want to confirm.
No, it's a valid question. You can bring a pen, but if you don't have one, it'll be hard for them to provide 18. So yeah, bring your pen as well.
Okay.
And for the persons who are not on island, please contact Ms. Dean before Friday. She is going to arrange for you to sit at one of our testing centers. We have Freeport, Abaco, Eleuthera, and Exuma. So call Ms. Dean by Friday and she will let you know which testing center to go to on Wednesday. Okay, Tanishka, you have a question?
No, that was my question about where I was going to take the exam.
Okay.
So I will contact the dean.
Right. Okay.
First thing in the morning, I'll call her.
Okay, good.
Right.
And again, it's the same rules at the testing center, please. It's gonna be recorded. We don't want any incidences, you know, and we wanna uphold all our normal exam standards. So same no to cell phone and, you know, no books. Just your key, your pen, and your mask.
I have another question, Ms. Bullet.
Go ahead.
The exam is next week, Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay, and it's from what time, from the same time frame as the class?
From 6 the same time as class, yeah, 6 to 9.
Okay, to 9, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Hello,
Hi,
you can hear me now.
we can hear you.
Okay, somebody already asked my question, but I was just making sure like if we should have bring pens or something because you said only math and keys. So I wanted to know like, is it we writing on paper or we typing on the computer at
No,
this?
you're writing on paper, 7
Okay.
essays. Yeah, that's why I say let your hand rest the day before.
Okay.
Okay, 7 essays is a lot to write.
And tonight, are we going in the order of what you sent on the
Yes.
assignment?
So
Okay.
whoever had question 1. Are you ready? That's Indira and Lottie.
Hi, Miss Bullet.
Hi.
Me too.
Yes, good evening. Will we be getting points for this too? This question, the section question, yeah.
When you say points, what do you mean?
Points will be added for this for the same team work too?
I'm confused. What points are you referring to?
No, I'm saying that how you asking us to do the same questions, answering these. I say, will the teams get points? That's what I'm asking.
What type of points?
I don't know. I'm only asking, ma'am.
No, I don't know. All the points and everything finished last
Okay.
week.
Okay. All right. That's what I was wondering. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so Indira and Lottie, are we ready?
Miss Bullet?
And Christina, you were working with them as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
So are y'all ready? I didn't hear you.
We can go now.
Okay. Go ahead. Question 1.
Okay, so we had money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing crimes. Now, we were a bit confused as to if you just wanted us to speak on examples of these, or you wanted us to go into the actual definitions and stuff.
What did I ask for last week when we went through it? Because we went through every question.
I know you said you wanted us to give.
Okay,
like,
go back and
3
listen to
points.
the recording and we'll go to question 2 and we'll come back to y'all at the end until y'all figure out what needs to be done. But I went through every single question last week. Okay? Christina?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, so we'll come back to you at the end.
Okay, question 2. Brittany is not in this afternoon, so I will be taking her portion also along with mine. Question 2 refers to fines for tipping off and failing to disclose. I went through the act, which is actually the POCA Act, and with regard to tipping off, under section 14, subsections A, 1 and 2 and B, is cited under the Proceeds of Crime Act 2018, also known as the POCA 2018. And tipping off is considered to be a criminal offense if a person commits section A, which is, it relates to someone who is basically aware that the customer is being watched, or for some suspicious transaction reporting, which is STR, on any bank accounts they might have. This person may have been seen, may be considered to be a money launderer or something, but as far as the bank concerned, this person who's aware then goes and contacts the person and, you know, basically let them know, you know, what the bank is thinking or how the bank feels about their account. So they basically divulges the information to the person, which they should not do. And then again, under subsection A, 2, it relates to an individual who actually informs the suspected customer that the bank has, you know, directed their matter to FIU, which is the Financial Investigation Unit, and
Intelligence, and that's another question. It says FIP, FIU, FIE. Make sure you know what STR and FIU stand for.
Okay, great. I made a mistake there. So that's Financial Intelligence Unit, which is FIU. And so once the bank notifies them, then they go now and do this STR, which is, like I said, suspicious transaction reporting. And sometimes as a result of their investigation, that report might end up leading to the authorities to do further investigation, because that person may actually be money laundering, you know, based on their suspicion. And then the last portion of tipping off is subsection B. Okay, and this refers to, again, you know, someone involving a third party that this STR, based on the suspicion, is going on. And in them doing that, they actually prejudice the case by the FIU, their investigation. And basically, sometimes it gets to a point where in them prejudicing, they jeopardize the customer might end up finding out, and then the customer might pull out and stop whatever they're doing. So then they don't have anything to go on because, you know, the case is for naught now because this person had to go and divulge this information. And then the other section of it is penalties. And the penalties relates to not only to the tipping off, but I went a little further. I went under section 9 of the POCA Act, where persons are punishable under sections 9 to 11 under summary conviction for imprisonment of any of the offenses, or they can be fined. And the fine is basically, imprisonment is actually for 7 years. And the fine is actually $500,000. And I was really shocked because I thought it would be like 50,000, but the fine is actually high. So they can either be prison for 7 years, fined, and that's very high. And then in some instances under section 12, which relates to the tipping off, these persons can actually be liable under the same thing, under summary conviction, and imprisoned for 12 years, bearing the same fine, which is $500,000. And then again, when I was basically checking the act and looking online, I found that if convicted on indictment, because that's much stronger than the summary conviction, these offenders can actually go to jail for 25 years and still be fined as $500,000. So it's a lot. So my thing is, summary convictions are less serious and are not an arrestable offense compared to indictable offenses, which is more serious. It's a more serious offense where you can be arrested. So that actually comes under the tipping off offense. Now, when we get to failing to disclosure, I'm basically going to just read Brittany because I didn't really have the time when she emailed me this afternoon to tell me she wouldn't be able to go over hers.
Yeah,
So-
Colette, the imprisonment for that 7 years is not for that fine.
It's not?
12 years, no.
I have
Summary
12 years.
Yeah, summary conviction is 12 years. And then the next fine is not exceeding 20, a fine or both. And
Okay, 20?
if you look at the penalties, it says a person who commits an offense under 9011.
Yes.
This is not 9011, this is 12 to 14.
No, the first one I read was 9 to 11. The second one I did was 12 to 14.
Yeah, that's the penalty is 9.
Okay.
9 talks about, section 9 talks about concealing.
Okay.
And then 10 is arrangements concerning proceeds of crime. And then 11 is acquisition, use, and possession of proceeds of crime.
Okay.
12 is failure to disclose. And then 13 is failure to disclose by nominated officers. And 14 is tipping off. And then
Yeah.
15 talks about the penalties. And so a lot of persons get confused because they read section 1. Section 1 says, under these sections of 9011, that's not it. Section
Okay.
2 then says, a person commits an offense under sections 12 to 14.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So it's a minimum of 12 years or not exceeding 12 years or a fine exceeding $500,000 or both.
Okay.
And it is very high because persons were not taking it seriously.
Okay.
And what they did is once you are onboarded as a new employee, the law, you have to sign that you agree that you will not tip off or fail to disclose, because there are many cases where a person said, this is below my pay scale, this is not my job, or nobody's going to protect me. So that's why they upped all the penalties.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So question, more than likely this is going to come on the exam. When this question comes on the exam and I have to answer this question, basically what I need to do is just leave out sections 9 to 11 and focus more on 12 to 14.
Yeah, but 9 to 11 has nothing to do with this. See, okay, we're looking at the law. It's a bit confusing.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the law, POCA. Where's 9? Let me see. This is 10.
No,
Okay.
I think I just picked it up based on penalties, seeing the word penalties. So I just added all of that in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is 9. I don't know why this says 6 in there. Then this is 10 and this is 11.
Okay.
Correct?
Okay,
And
great.
now this is 12 and this is 13 and this is 14.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So when we look at it, it says a person who commits an offense under sections 9 to 11. We are not in section 9 to 11.
Okay.
Then it
okay.
says a person who commits an offense under section 12 to 14.
Okay.
Correct? So this is our summary conviction and our conviction.
Yes. Okay. So
Right
what I
there.
would do for my notes, I will just scratch out the 9 to 11 so I don't get confused with that
Yes,
on my exam.
yes.
Thank
Correct.
you. Okay, great.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
And like I say, persons always get one wrong because they still guessing, but
Okay.
it'll say not more than or less than. So, once you know the fine 12 or 20 or both or 500,000, then you know, just do the lesser than or greater than. It won't be plain sight like this.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, definitely, thank you.
Okay,
Okay, so like I said, I scotched that out so that I don't confuse myself when studying with that.
right.
Okay, failure to disclose. Under section 12 for 1AB, one on, I think it's 5A, I think that's 5, as cited in the Proceeds of Crime Act 2018, it is considered a criminal offense if a firm or sole practitioner engage in one or more of the following activities. And that is under subsection A, notes that these offenses affect accounting, audit, or taxation services. Section B accounts for legal or notarial services in sections 1 to 6 to 7. These subsections involve the participation in financial services or real property taxes that involve buying or selling real property, business entities or interests, management of clients' money, securities, and other assets, opening and management of bank savings, organization of contributions, and management of trusts, companies, and other similar financial sectors. 2, an offense is committed once satisfying 3 of these conditions, and that is knows or suspects. This is the meaning of that the person suspected money laundering practices are noted a risk. B, to which suspicion or knowledge is based, or 2, has given grounds for suspicion, or that the disclosure was not made as soon as possible after the information or matter comes up. 3, subsection 2A presents a disclosure of information stating that a body, office, or department authorized to receive the disclosure for the purposes of this part, or B, in the form and manner for purposes of subsections are to be disclosed by the focal point officer. And I guess the focal point officer, I guess, is the person who's responsible. Section 4 states that a crime is not considered a felony if the person has a reasonable excuse for non-disclosure, or B, there are no reasonable signs of suspicion that another individual is participating in money laundering. And 5, section 13 states that failure to disclose by a nominal officer is seen as a felony if A, the officer suspects or has insight on a person's engagement in money laundering, and B, disclosures are not made as soon as the information is found out is considered a criminal offense. Like I said, I didn't get to really read over her stuff to really grasp the true meaning of it. It's something I'm gonna have to do when I study.
Okay, okay. So the most important thing are the penalties, right? And make sure that you understand the penalties are from section 2. Okay?
Yes.
Don't read section 1.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
good.
Thank
All right, very good, Colette. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, any questions for Colette? No?
Would she be able to share her notes?
I can if Ms. Bullitt allow me to.
Go ahead, you can share.
Okay,
Okay,
not a
thank
problem.
you.
Okay.
But Cola, can you repeat the part where you said about the penalties for tipping off, please, and the fines?
Y'all couldn't see the screen? It was up on the screen the whole time. Y'all didn't see
Miss,
that?
you slide that thing too fast, please.
So what I did was I didn't write exactly with what was said in the thing. I trying to put it in my own words so I can get a better understanding when I have to do my exams. So that's how I did mine. Because I'm not gonna remember what.
No, I remember hearing I think it was you, but you were saying how much the fines were. You see, and I was just writing it down just now.
I'll
So
share it. I'll share it. I'll just delete that portion that Ms. Bullitt told me not to.
There you go.
There.
I put it on the screen, but I thought it was up on the screen. Go, that's it on the screen.
Miss Bullitt, you slide that thing
It
so
was
fast.
up on the screen, but you was moving it like really fast.
Yes, well, thank you.
But you said it's the POCA Act of 2018.
So it's on the screen. Can you see it?
Yeah, that's the shit. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what she
I can
meant.
see it.
Let me
just-
go up to the top so you can see. See?
The title.
Proceeds of Crime Act 218.
That's right.
Okay?
And section 12 through 14.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, question 3.
Question 3 is
Nicolette and Satisha, domestic terrorism.
Good evening. Is defined as violent criminal acts committed by individuals or groups to further their ideological ends, stemming from domestic influences such as political, religious, social, racial, or environmental nature. It poses a direct challenge to national security, democracy, and national unity. These attacks are considered domestic because they occurred within the boundaries of one country. They were carried out by the country's citizens or permanent residents. Many factors have contributed to the evolution of terrorism threats, such as lone offenders. Terrorist threats have evolved from large group conspiracies towards offender attacks. These individuals often radicalize online and mobilize to violence quickly. Without a clear group affiliation or guidance, lone offenders are challenging to identify, investigate, and disrupt. The FBI relies on partnerships and the public to identify these attacks. Another factor that contributed to the evolution of terrorism threats is the internet and social media. International and domestic violent extremists have developed an extensive presence on the internet through messaging platforms and online images, videos, and publications. These facilitate the group's ability to radicalize and recruit individuals who are receptive to extremist messages. Social media has also allowed both international and domestic terrorists to gain unprecedented virtual access to people living in the US and worldwide in an effort to enable attacks.
What about Bahamas?
Also the Bahamas.
Okay. Tell us more about the Bahamas.
About domestic terrorism in the Bahamas?
Yeah.
Well, most of the cases of terrorism that we see here in the Bahamas is gang related. I guess the most notable case is the case with the 6 guys that were killed. I think that was on Jerome Avenue.
Okay.
Just to write up this based on what's happening in the Bahamas.
I mean, I guess saying I would imagine, is either the Bahamas or the US.
But this is more catered to the US. I mean, because we see more cases of domestic terrorism there. I mean, our cases are like
even though we see more cases there. It says domestic. What does domestic mean?
Locally, but what I'm saying is our cases are just gang related stuff.
But it's still terrorism?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would think if it says domestic, it's more geared to what's happening right here.
Okay, but how much could we write on? I mean, I don't know.
You only know of one domestic terrorism case that happened here?
I get. What about
The one on Cowpen Road with 3.
That's the one as well.
See, a lot of y'all, each of your questions came out of a chapter. And if you were not certain on what to say, then you should at least listen to the recording from the chapter if you can't remember. Correct?
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said okay.
Yeah, so it's more than one case that happened here.
Yeah. Last comment.
I said it's more than one case that we discussed that happened here. Okay, give it, you did the US, give us, tell us about a case that happened in the US.
Okay, I have the Oklahoma City bombing. That happened in April 1995, where there was a religious group had a shootout with federal officials that led to some killings. It left 168 people dead. 19 of them were children, and several more were injured. And then there was the Las Vegas shooting, where this happened at a concert where 50 persons were killed and more than 500 injured. And also, the motive of that shooting still remains unknown. And then there's also the Pulse nightclub shooting. Those are just some of the more notable cases of the domestic terrorism in the US.
Okay, yeah, but they had like 3 last week, 2 on the same day.
Well, actually, today I heard about, I think the guy who did the one at the supermarket, and I think it was Buffalo, that killed persons.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Mhm.
no, I was just gonna say, make sure you can explain it, because, you know, you have to have a proper overview as, like you say, the cause is unknown, but the one for Pulse, the cause is known, and how many people died and what actually happened.
Okay, but
But if they ask you, what can we do to curb this, or, you know, so think about the possibilities of the question. You know, it may specifically say in the Bahamas. And so that one case won't be sufficient.
Mhm. Okay,
It does say domestic.
all right.
Bullard,
Hi.
I have a question. For example, for domestic terrorism, would, for example, a bank being hacked, would that be a form of domestic terrorism?
No, no. Did anybody die from the hacking?
No.
No. Okay. No.
Okay.
That's a cyber, probably a cyber crime or a cyber attack.
I just wanted to know because I thought like maybe by them funding, it's a terrorist act. It would.
Oh, same thing.
Yeah, but that would be terrorist financing, not domestic terrorism. Okay, so make sure you look, like I said, each question will probably have 3 parts. Make sure that you understand what the question is asking, because again, what I saw in the homework is, you know, particularly this one about simplified and enhanced due diligence, compare and contrast the differences. Persons just went on and talked about due diligence and they didn't get any points. So the same thing, if you just go on and talk about terrorism, the topic is domestic terrorism, and it says, give us 3 cases in the Bahamas, give us 2 cases in the US, or give 1 case in the Bahamas and 1 in the US, then you can't just go on talking about the US and expect to get full points. So if you plan to answer that question, you need to go and do your research. That's why it says requires research next to it.
Ms. Bullard, would you be able to give us some examples?
Go and listen to the recording. I gave all the examples in the recording in the class. Okay, because this whole review session is not for Ms. Bullard to give you anything. It's for you to come in and tell me that I was present in the class or I listened to the recording and let me prove to you my understanding. But this isn't going like that at all. Because obviously, no, it doesn't seem like anybody went back and listened to the class to get all the answers. Right, and plus I gave an overview last week. So I don't know if, I know it's very difficult to pay attention online or to listen, but if you have one question out of 10, you should be able to go back and listen to last week or the week when the class was in discussed. Right? That was the expectation. And that's why I said you will only get out of this review class what you put into it. I'm not going to give you the answer. The person sent me their homework. Could you give me feedback so I could get this in before the deadline? No, I can't give you the answer. That's why you need to go do research if you have 1 or 2 questions, but can't give you the answers. This is the end of the class now. You show me what you learned, and I don't know. Okay, Nicolette, do you want to say anything else? Or that's it?
I guess another example of domestic terrorism here in the Bahamas is the shooting that happened on, I think, Foxhill Park.
Yes.
I don't remember how many persons were killed or whatever. I don't know if they ever, I guess that may have been gang related also.
Go into your research.
Yeah, okay.
Which we had hoped that you would come to this class with, but make sure you do it for the exam.
I didn't think you would want us, I mean, because like I said, all the cases here are gang related, like the same.
But we still having a problem. It's gang related or ideological. It's the same thing. Somebody walked into Commonwealth Bank during the pandemic and sneezed on the cookies. They was charged with terrorism.
I don't remember that.
Okay, read.
Yes,
Okay.
but that's the one where they said the customer walked into Commonwealth Bank and told them that they have COVID. Eh?
COVID, and they sneezed all over the cookies
Yes,
or whatever they had. Yeah. It was in the newspaper. All these things in the newspaper. You have to do research. That's why I said this class is discussion based. It requires research. It requires a lot of reading. And this exam is to test to see if you did any of that. Okay, so thank you, Nicolette. We'll go on to question 4, IMF disaster recovery. Danielle and Quikel.
Hey, good day. Hope everyone is well. Okay, we had the IMF Bahamas disaster recovery. So our first point, you know that the IMF stands for the International Monetary Fund, which was established in 1945, and they were designed to avoid the reoccurrence of the Great Depression. They work to achieve sustainable growth and prosperity for all of its 190 member countries by supporting economic policies that promote financial stability and monetary cooperation, which are essential to increase productivity, job creation, and economic well-being. Our second point, we have the Catastrophe Containment and Relief Trust, the CCRT, allows the IMF to provide grants for debt relief for the poorest and most vulnerable countries hit by catastrophic natural and public health disasters. They were established in February 2015 after the Ebola outbreak, and they modified in 2020 after COVID-19. So the Bahamian government had a $900,000 disaster insurance with the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, the CCRIF, but decided to discontinue making further payments and allocate the money to other means after being unable to claim from both Hurricane Joaquin in 2015 and Hurricane Matthew in 2016.
So in 2018, the IMF recommended that Bahamas update their disaster relief plan to avoid any repercussions of the 8 issues they identified in the audit. I have that we also submitted our very first voluntary national review to the United Nations in 2018 as well, showing how committed we were to achieving their sustainable development goals and fully integrating it into our national development plan. Point number 5 is in early 2019, the IMF concluded before they left that we should make the necessary changes to our disaster relief plan immediately to avoid being blacklisted again. And the 3 things we put in place immediately were that we paid the $900,000 and resubscribed to the disaster insurance. We secured a contingent line of credit with the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB. And then we changed our laws so that 50% of the dormant funds, which was 88 million at the time, goes toward the natural disaster fund. They suggested that establishing a natural disaster fund will complement the financial tools we already have available and would help with effectively responding to disasters. And they also suggested that investing in physically resilient infrastructure through our building code enforcement and coastal management is also equally important. So the Bahamian government presented this to the IFM and they were satisfied with our changes. And as we all know, on September 1st, 2019, Bahamas experienced one of the most catastrophic hurricanes to date, Hurricane Dorian, which claimed the lives of thousands of Bahamians on the islands of Grand Bahama and Abaco. It affected a population of approximately 29.5 thousand with a total amount of 3.4 billion in damages and losses, according to the IDB damage and loss assessment synthesis that they released on May 2022. The total damages and losses by Hurricane Dorian were enough for us to claim from our insurance, and then also the funds from the dormant funds that we would have set aside for the natural disaster fund was also a great help with rebuilding those islands that were affected. Shortly after Dorian, the government passed the Bahamas Disaster Reconstruction Authority Act on November 30th, 2019, and responded rather quickly by creating the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management, and Reconstruction. This ministry consists of the National Emergency Management Agency, as we know as NEMA, and the Disaster Reconstruction Authority, the DRA, and they work together to facilitate mitigation planning, community preparedness, public information sharing, and recovery conditions. Also,
Okay,
we know—
Daniel, that's sufficient. That's
Okay.
sufficient. That is
Wonderful.
excellent. You would get 10 points. That's when that's research. So very, very thorough and full point. So excellent. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, any questions for Danielle? Okay, it's a very easy question to answer. I've seen it on the last 4 exams. Very easy to answer. Okay. Okay, Shikara and Parika.
Okay, who going, me or you? Are we doing 5 and 5? Just go 8.
You could just go down.
Okay. So FATF Bahamas Sufficient Recommendations. The FATF started in 1989 to establish international standards to combat money laundering and terrorist financing. The FATF assesses the implementation and effectiveness of systems from over 30 countries to battle money laundering and terrorist financing. In 1990, the FATF developed the 40 recommendations. In 2017, the Bahamas got blacklisted and was under increased monitoring due to its deficiency in the 40 recommendations. During its 2017 evaluation, despite the Bahamas being compliant and partially compliant in some areas, it was non-compliant with recommendation number 6, targeted financial sanctions related to terrorism and terrorist financing. Based on the FTRA Section 5, failure to report suspicious transactions is a commission of a summary offense and is liable to imprisonment for a term up to 5 years and or a fine.
What?
I was mentioning the FTRA Section 5. I don't know, but I think that maybe we had gotten the question mixed up when you was talking about the FTRA Section 5. I think that was for the other question.
Yeah, that was for risk, because the
Okay.
Section 5 talks about that risk assessment.
Okay,
And then that
because
wasn't, yeah.
someone mentioned it. Okay,
No,
so
we said,
omit that
so
one.
recommendation 1 was deficient.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And since
And they
2017
updated, they updated it to Section 5.
Okay. And well, omit that one. Since 2017, the CFATF has re-rated the Bahamas for 13 out of the 40 recommendations. And we have it listed here. I'm not sure if you want me to go through them.
No, I want you to tell me which were deficient and what we did.
Which were deficient.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 second.
Assessing the risk and applying a risk-based approach, we were partially compliant.
Right.
National cooperation and coordination, we were partially compliant. Targeted financial sanctions related to terrorism and terrorist financing, we went from non-compliant to partially compliant. That's the number 6 that she talked about.
Okay, so those are 3. Those are
Yes.
3. Now tell us what the Bahamas did to fix those 3.
They said that it's on my own.
Well, we did mention that the Bahamas has strengthened the effectiveness and has addressed related technical deficiencies to meet the commitments in its action plan and remedy the strategic deficiencies in AML or CFT system in October 2018.
Yeah, but you won't get any points for that. If you say we were deficient in recommendation 1, 2, and 24, then we to get full points, you want to say, and so the Bahamas did this to fix recommendation 1. The Bahamas did that to fix this, you know, we now have a sanction framework in place and this is how it works or something.
I was trying to find where that information would have been because we know what we were deficient in.
That was found in the anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing measures, the Bahamas, in the first enhanced follow-up report on technical compliance re-rating December 2018. It's a lot of information.
But remember, I told you to put in F and search, and if you put in risk, everything that dealt with risk would come up. If you put in sanctions, everything that they did with sanctions would come up.
Okay. The CFATF agreed to maintain the largely compliant for recommendation 5, the compliant rating for recommendation 21, and partially compliant rating.
No points.
Sorry.
Only tell us what was deficient and then tell us what you did to fix it. And that's how you get full points for that question. Okay, so recommendation 1.
Recommendation 1. They had originally laid it as partially compliant, and it had, in order to address the deficiencies noted, the Bahamas utilized the World Bank methodology in the completion of its NRA on the December 6, 2017.
Right, so on the national risk assessment.
The Bahamas has identified and assessed its money laundering and terrorist financing risks and has developed a risk-based approach at various levels of the financial sectors. And
right.
and
this is where you add that in Section 5 of the FTRA, they put it into law, and that's the end of that. To get and then you go on to the next one, and then on to the next one. Okay.
All right.
Okay, that's how you answer that question. But you could get caught up just running on and on
with that,
and you won't get points.
But like I said, all that can be, the recommendations can be found in that same anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing measures. the Bahamas First Enhanced Follow-up Report on Technical Compliance re-rating December 2018.
Right.
What we
Right.
was deficient in under recommendations.
Right, correct. Okay, good, good. So again, another easy question, but to answer, persons don't like to bother with it. But like I said, if you could go pull out 3 recommendations, and if it's on risk, put search an F, everything on risk. If it's on sanctions, everything is on taxes, everything on taxes. And to me, it's easy to answer, but persons don't like to do research. So yeah. Okay, ladies, any questions for Henfield and Hasty?
So it would only be 3 we required to answer in that question.
Normally, it is 3. The
Okay.
max, if you're gonna give examples, the max you would give is 3 examples. But there are some questions that would have asked you for 5, like if it asks you about the statutory requirements, it'll ask you about the 5 statutory requirements. If they ask you about money laundering crimes, they may say 5 money laundering crimes. But any other question, 3 examples would be the limit normally.
No, I mean in for the FT, the financial.
That's what I said. Normally,
Okay.
3 is the limit. But there are
Okay.
questions that would ask you for 5. Like I said.
Yeah, I was
because
just
they are-
asking for the FT, the Financial Action Task Force question.
Yeah, they are different. Like I said, we have a test bank. We have 100 questions in the test bank. Whatever comes up, the computer will spit you out a test. You know, so I'm not certain what question they'll ask, but for questions like that, yeah, 3.
Okay.
There are 1 or 2 questions that ask for 5. Okay, any other questions on the FATF? Okay, Shanika and Carrie Mae.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
We had question 6. It's on the statutory requirements. A statutory requirement can be defined as a requirement imposed by a law enacted by a state or central government. The Bahamas Financial Transaction Reporting Act and regulations give financial institutions the discretion to determine the appropriate level of KYC documentation for each customer based on the degree of risk assessed for each customer. There are 5 statutory requirements. The first one is identification. This is a mandatory requirement. There are 2 essential elements to verifying a person's identity, which are confirming the physical identity. When you confirm the physical identity, the institution receives supporting documentation, which is presented by the person who is opening the account or establishing the business relationship, that confirms the natural person's full name, 2 ways of contacting them, their date and place of birth, and registration number such as the NIB number, social security, or TIN number.
That's sufficient for identification.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people just give me a whole page on identification. That just give 1 or 2 examples. Now go on to the activity undertaking.
Okay. Identify the purpose of the account, the nature of the business of the account, and the anticipated transaction activity of the account is to be confirmed to determine the risk profile. Also, you have to identify the source of funds, and if the client is deemed high risk, you have to identify their source of wealth.
Okay. Good.
If certified documents
No, that's enough. Go on
Okay.
to now the next statutory requirement. Remember, it's 5 now.
Okay.
So, you know.
The next statutory requirement is record keeping. Institutions should maintain full records of original documents for a minimum of 5 years of a 5-year period of all customer identification and transactions conducted for use of evidence for all investigations into money laundering or terrorist financing as per the Financial Transaction Reporting Act. Institutions are to ensure that their records meet the legislative requirements and that they are in adherence with the AML, CFT policies and procedures. Section 15 of the Financial Transaction Reporting Act states that a financial
No,
institution.
no, that's enough. Go on to
Okay.
the next one.
Okay. Carrie.
Okay, so we're continuing on with the other statutory requirements. This training in accordance with the financial intelligence transaction reporting regulations. Employees must have annual AML CFT training. New employees are to receive general information with respect to the money laundering, terrorist financing, trade, and familiarize themselves with the company's policies for interaction and dealing with different types of customers, particularly transactions that involve large amounts of cash and ones that give rise to suspicious transactions or activity. Training should also inform staff of penalties and offenses that arise from the existing AML CFT legislation, internal reporting procedures, retention of records, and reporting suspicious transactions to the FIU. The
That's
next
sufficient.
one,
Go on to the next one.
monitoring.
Mhm.
Financial institutions should have systems and controls in place that is constantly monitoring and reviewing activities and transactions. For higher risk or cash intensive clients or accounts, the monitoring of these relationships should be more consistent and cover more areas of operation to identify any changes or inconsistencies. Reporting. The MLRO, or the money laundering reporting officer, is identified as the person who employees must report their knowledge of suspicion, and this person would then review to verify whether the information requires additional investigation. They are also expected to act with integrity and should have timely access to all relevant information in order to make the appropriate assessment, and is expected to be knowledgeable of the policies and procedures, and if warranted, based on the findings, that they report the matter to the relevant authorities, mainly the FIU and or to the Commissioner of Police. Failure to disclose on
No,
summary.
no. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, excellent, ladies. And you, because it's so many, you just need to give a 1 or 2 liner just to prove that you understand. Okay? And you would get full points.
Okay.
So not a half a page on identification and all of that. Okay,
Okay.
so good job. Good job.
Thank
Okay,
you.
any questions on the statutory requirements? No, okay. Risk.
Good evening to all. I'm on number 7, risk framework. Risk framework refers to the structure a financial institution utilizes to help mitigate possible threats regarding anti-money laundering or countering the financing of terrorism. In establishing a solid framework, one must be able to identify the risks. For example, you have legal risks, such as breach of law, criminal risks, whether it's fraud or embezzlement, reputational risks, like unwanted headlines, where you have corruption or bribery. And there is operational risk, such as natural disasters. You know how we had the COVID, therefore branches or yes, on the family islands. You know, and even here had to shut down, like to cut costs. Also, you have human error. Another risk could be regulatory risk, whereas you get punitive fines or penalties for violating regulations. And you have financial risk, what's the bank losing money or the institution losing money. This also helps with addressing the CFATF's first recommendation, which relates to assessing the risk and applying a risk-based approach. One must be able to measure the risk or the risk appetite, meaning who we will do business with, what products or services that you'll be offering. For example, you will have to evaluate the benefits or the disadvantages of cryptocurrencies. After that, then you'll have risk mitigation or risk assessment, in which certain measures should be followed by establishing policies or controls as well as customer due diligence. For example, you need to have 2 signatories for all transactions. I guess business transactions, I think, right? Companies, or whether it's a PEP account. Therefore, you will need the board to approve it. There are also another one could be there are 3 lines of defense where you have front line and management are in the first line, and there's compliance is in the second line, and then you have internal audit in the third. Following that is the risk rating, where the institutions establish a risk methodology and the clients classify clients whether they are high, medium, or low.
Okay. You finished, Shivana?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent, very good. The only thing you did not say was risk assessment, but you did go on to talk about high, medium, or low. Sorry, not high, medium, or low, but you said the 3 lines of defense. And when you talked about the different types of risk, reputational or what have you, that would appear on the risk assessment. So I would just use that word because it's being marked and cross-marked. And you want the cross marker to take off points because you did not put it together. You know what I mean? Or you didn't write it. So when you write it, you should start off with recommendation 1 and then go on to risk appetite, risk assessment, and then risk rating. So just to make sure you get your full points. Okay. Otherwise, you did very good, good information. And you would get full points just to organize it properly.
Oh, okay. So I would like to scribble this down.
Yeah, but that, I mean, I'm just saying I would use those headings. Recommendation 1, and what I want to say about that. Risk appetite, what I want to say about appetite, risk assessment, and when you do risk assessment, that's where your reputational risk, financial risk, credit risk should fall under that category.
All right, okay. So
okay.
Yes, I'm gonna categorize it.
Right. Okay, good. Very good. Just so it'll be clear, because a lot of times,
I just scribbled this down, and I should have, like you said, categorized it so
a bit
it
of structure, just so you get your full points. Right, but otherwise you did a good job. Please be mindful of your handwriting. Please print. Please no cursive. You don't have interpreters to read your writing. Okay, and persons lose a lot of points over cursive, and we just don't know what they're saying. Okay, and then also remember that it's an essay form. Only question, the last final question that you write, the 7th question, can be in list form, because that means you would have run out of time and you want to write a list to get some points, 3 or 4 points. But if question 6 is in this form, you don't get any points. Okay, so essay form for each question. Okay. Okay, very, very good, Shivani. Thank you. Stephen and Chelsea, anybody wants to ask questions on 7, or was it clear?
It was very clear. Good job.
Oh, okay, good.
That's very clear.
All right, good. So Stephen and Chelsea, number 8.
Y'all can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just making sure. Chelsea, go ahead. Start your part.
Okay. Good afternoon again. Court order is a proclamation. A court order is a proclamation by a judge or the court instructing a person to do or not to do something. Court orders under the POCA Act 2018, this legislation sets out several court orders that can be applied to criminal conduct that was committed. These orders include restraint, freezing, unexplained wealth orders, and investigative orders, customer information, monitoring, disclose, and production orders. As it relates to the disclosure order, it authorized the authorized person to give any relevant person notice in writing and requiring them to disclose disclose information, or give testimony. A production order requires a person to produce requested documents to the relevant authority. Monitoring orders instructs financial institution to disclose any information obtained about transactions conducted through an account held by the person with the institution. This order is specific to what transaction date and amount the court is looking for. Customer information orders requests from financial institutions and any information concerning a particular customer along the lines of full name, date of birth, most recent address, any previous address, etc. These orders are under the investigative order. Okay, Stephen, you're free to finish up.
Okay. So the unexplained, good afternoon, everyone, sorry. The unexplained wealth order is a court order issued to compel one to reveal the source of their unexplained wealth. It mainly targets politically exposed persons, PEPs. For example, Michelle Reckley, a former director of the Urban Renewal in Grand Bahama, along with others, were brought before the courts on 41 charges of money laundering and fraud. It is alleged that Reckley defrauded the government approximately 1.3 million through Urban Renewal Small Homes Repair Program. Another case is the former cabinet minister, Alma Campbell, and her son, Shay Chase, were accused of defrauding the government of $1.2 million after Chase cashed a forged Ministry of Tourism check made payable to their firm. That's the unexplained wealth. The restraint order found under Section 24 of the 2018 Proceeds of Crime Act prevents a person convicted of an offense or under investigation from encountering any property that the offender has interest in, using a particular method of an offense, any property that is proceeds of an offense, and terrorist property, that is funds or property that is being held on behalf of, or belongs to the benefit of a terrorist or a financer of terrorism. A restraint order is made privately to a justice of the Supreme Court, and it is done on camera or recording unless to do so is not in the best interest of the justice. Under restraint orders, the court also has the right to seize any property of the offender, take it into possession, deliver it up for safekeeping, or otherwise secured by a named authorized officer, enforcement authority, or any person they appoint for this matter. When a restraint order is made, the enforcement authority within 2 working days of the given order or whatever period the court decides must give notice to the person affected by the order. For example, Perino Zanga on October 24, 2017 was convicted of various offenses, which included bankruptcy, tax fraud, criminal association, money laundering, and corruption. On the 5th of February 2018, the applicant received a letter of request from the Office of the Public Prosecutor in Italy. The prosecutors advised that Zanga and the second respondent were being investigated for crimes including fraudulent bankruptcy, embezzlement, falsification of documents, and fraudulent appropriation of values. The applicant was the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This can be found under the Common Law and Equity Division 2020/CLE/Gen/0024 at thebahamasjudiciary.com. A freezing order, sorry?
No, I was just saying, okay, I thought you were done because you all gave definitions and then you all gave examples. So
that's it?
Yeah, that's all.
I don't need the rest? Okay, cool.
It'll probably ask you to compare and contrast 2 or 3 orders and then your cases. And like you gave 2 cases for unexplained wealth. Or I saw one question before, give 2 cases on unexplained wealth. That was a question. Okay, so yeah, you get the gist of how to answer the question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you too. Very good. Bria and Tanisha, red flags, indicators for organized crime.
Good afternoon. I'll start.
Yeah, and just before you start, there are scenario questions. And if you did any of the questions, if you looked at the back of the book, you would have seen that they created scenarios. So if this question is on the exam, they'll probably say, Mr. So-and-so is married to an ambassador, he lives in Kuwait, you know, and they will give different red flags, and then you will determine whether you will rate them high, medium, or low, and then you will document some of the red flags. Okay, so go ahead, Bria.
Okay, so our task was to name 10 points, 10 red flags or indicators of organized crimes. So a red flag is a warning or indicator suggesting that there is a potential problem or threat with a company's stock, financial statements, or news reports. Red flags may be any undesirable characteristics that stands out to an analyst or investor. Examples of these red flags would be: 1, multiple parties or persons involved in a STR, which is a suspicious transaction report. And this is basically when an employee noticed some strange activity on a client's transactions or received some type of transaction that is outside the bound of the client, and they reported to the MLRO for further investigation. 2, clients are linked with organized criminal organizations, such as, let's say, they like ISIS or a gang or something of that sort, or something illegal. 3, use of money mules. A money mule is a person who transfers money acquired illegally in person through a courier service or electronically on behalf of others. Typically, the mule is paid for services with a small part of the money transferred. 4, transfers to or from offshore zones, usually described as loans or credit reimbursements. So those high-risk jurisdictions and stuff like that would trigger a red flag or a warning. 5, beneficial owners are difficult to identify or locate in offshore jurisdictions. So like an account with a non-natural person beneficial owner, that is an indication that this would be some type of organized crime or suspicion of some type of organized crime. I'll let Tanisha continue before I sit here and say y'all. Tanisha, you here?
I am here. I am in between different places because I had car trouble leaving work today. So I was catching a ride with multiple people going from one stop to the next, and I'm not home yet. But to continue on from Bria, just to identify more indicators for organized crime is when, and particularly with financial institutions, when a customer says their deposits are going to be a certain amount each month, and then it's either extremely higher than the amount stated, or there are multiple small amounts to try and go under the radar. But if you're paying attention, you'll notice it's a little bit offsetting. When there are multiple jurisdictions involved in getting money from one account to another, that's a red flag. And as using the example that Stephen gave in his answer with Michelle Reckley, if the financial institution had taken note of the amounts deposited into her account, which did not really connect to her source of funds, should have been an indicator of something was going on. And multiple companies with fictitious invoices, and an example of that would have been, which was a point raised with the former Deputy Prime Minister. A former business partner accused him and others of using different companies to use money. And that's about it from where I am. If I could focus on what I'm reading and let everybody know the different points that were made. But we have multiple examples, and they range in what can happen.
Okay. All right, ladies, very good. And again, you gave some valid points. And like I said, if that question is there, it'll be a scenario question and you will pick out those red flags. So very good. Any questions for Tanishka and Bria?
Any related cases for this question? Like, should we mention any cases?
Well, like I said, it'll be a scenario question. So it will say,
Okay.
Mr. Cole is married to an ambassador to Chile. He deals in oil and gas. You know what I mean? His potential activity or his source of wealth is $2,000 a month. However, his potential activity is $10,000 a month, stuff like that. And so
Okay.
you will identify what is wrong with that scenario. And then it'll probably say, how would you risk rate this person?
Okay, thank you.
Right. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so we're going on to number 10, store and Knowles, customer due diligence.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have to do.
Afternoon.
We're gonna do customer due diligence. Basically, customer due diligence is just knowing your customer. It utilizes the KYC model. It helps to prevent identity theft, prevent abuse of bank facilities for that specific account, and it restricts money laundering / terrorist financing. Customer due diligence recognizes the relevance to the safety of the banks and its customers. Supervise.
Leah,
Yeah.
did you all speak? You should be speaking on simplified due diligence, and then enhanced due diligence, and then perhaps PEPs.
I am speaking on that.
On that? Okay. Okay, because this first part, you won't get any points.
So this is not necessary.
No. Because the questions will all be centered around simplified, enhanced, PEPs, and the importance of customer due diligence. So do you have anything about the importance of customer due diligence? Why does it have to be done?
Yeah, I have. It helps
Okay.
the reputation of the bank, and it assists the banks in the risk management strategy. It's the purpose is to establish a business, to see the business relationship and the regularity of the business relationship. I know the requirements are identification, record keeping, monitoring, training, basically the statutory requirement. And yeah, that's what I have so far.
Okay, good. So now let's go on to talk about simplified, enhanced, and PEPs.
Well, I didn't categorize it like that. Okay, so pursuant to Regulation 6 of the Financial Intelligence Transaction Reporting Regulations 2001, all financial institutions are required to ensure that all relevant employees are aware of the following acts periodically. The FIU Act, financial.
No points.
I finished though.
Yeah, but you that all of that.
Okay, so that part,
don't
no.
like that.
So that part I don't need.
No, talk about
Okay.
simplified and enhance, and then perhaps PEPs, but that's it. See, we don't want the whole point of having 10 points is we don't want is too much information, and we want to scale it down. We want what we need for the exam only because it's already too much. 7 essays is too much to, try and remember and understand. So,
okay, so should we remember the recommendations then?
No, we only need, it's simplified due diligence is?
Yes.
Okay, tell us what simplified is. Give us an example. Tell us about exempt companies or, and then tell us about enhanced due diligence, what is required, and then perhaps PEPs, but that's it. That's where those questions will be based.
Okay, for simplified.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, for the simplified due diligence, based on what I know, it's basically for the regular, basically a regular customer. You don't have to do the due diligence. It doesn't have to be as how I can say it. It doesn't
Don't
have
say regular, say high, medium, or low. So the medium
Okay,
and
so
low
it'd be like,
customers.
yeah, it'd be like low to medium customers. So you don't
Mhm.
have to do as much due diligence as you would have to for the enhanced due diligence. Financial institutions are mainly the ones that are exempted from the simplified due diligence.
No, it's not financial institutions, it's
No.
anybody who is regulated or listed on a stock exchange.
Okay, so it'll be the license behemoth.
Yeah, like licensees and, yeah.
So that's what
Be careful what you say, because you may not get points if you don't say it correctly.
Okay.
Okay, so and the higher risk customers would require enhanced due diligence. And
Okay, go back, let's go back to simplified first. Let's get the points on
Okay.
simplified. Give me five points on simplified. There's a
Okay,
category for exempt. And these will fall in the category for exempt. Then the low and medium customers, what do we do?
I lost what the question was.
What do we do for low and medium customers?
For low and medium customers.
Yes, we allow the compliance officer to approve them.
Right.
What notes do you have on simplified?
Well, I went into the act and the FATF recommendations on.
Did we go into the
enhanced due diligence?
When we went into the chapter, did we go into the act and did we do that?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so that's again, you have to listen to the recording if you're not sure on what has happened, because again, you go into the exam with all this extra information where you get no points. And I have people failing the exam because they write all these high level points that make no sense. They end up getting 2 or 3 points when they write 2 pages. Okay,
Well, that's
so
what I did. I wrote 3 pages
yeah.
and now I have no points.
You have to listen to the, if you don't remember, first of all, and you didn't do that homework, then you have to listen to the recording to find out how to answer the question. Okay, because these questions will be, or look into the book, into the chapter. The chapter talks about simplified, enhanced, and then PEPs. So there's 3 avenues. You can't miss all of them.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what to do for the customer due diligence questions. Know some points on simplified, get some points on enhanced, and then get some points on perhaps PEPs, or talk about the importance of due diligence. And there's another question that everybody always gets wrong. Do we have a duty? What is our duty to our customers? Is it to know the customers, or is it customer due diligence?
Customer due diligence.
No, it's you acquired KYC. Know your customer. Once you know your customer, then you carry out due diligence. Okay, and everybody gets that book. I don't know why. KYC. Okay, so that's how you answer that question. So you have to go and do some research. And again, it seems like nobody, I don't know how you all study, but you by now, you should have, there are 8 chapters in the book. There are 10 choices. You should select, I am going to answer this question on risk. I am going to answer this question on terrorism. There seems to be different types of terrorism. So more than likely, it'll be 2 questions. If I want to answer all the questions on terrorism, I have to study domestic terrorism and international terrorism. Right? And then put my points down. But if you don't listen to the recording and you don't read the book, you go online and you do research of a bunch of foolishness that can't give you any points. And primarily, I gave you all answers in the class. That's why we have class. Most of it is in class. You only need to go and do research, but you need to stay in line of what you already discussed. So no surprises. but it's very easy to just get too much information that will give you no points. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So I give you all the structure for how to answer so y'all can go and do your research when y'all study. Let's go to question 1.
Good night.
Good night. Mhm.
Good night. First of all, let me apologize. I was the speaker, but I was unavoidably detained at work. So I'll jump right into it. Our question is it's myself, Alexandria and Lottie. Money laundering is a process where criminals try to successfully conceal the ownership or origin of property from their criminal acts into the financial system. And it looks at money laundering from a three-step perspective. And as I go through these, I'll use the offense of drug trafficking. And the first step is placement. Cash is derived from the criminal activity and fused into the financial system. So it's basically dirty money when you get monies from drugs. So the object now is to ensure that that money gets clean. So it has to be placed somewhere in order for the process to begin. The layering of this money involves a system of transaction designed to hide the source of ownership of monies. So that means that if I get drug monies, I now need to try to get it to a legitimate business. We have a lot of businesses in the Bahamas that sometimes get caught up into that process. They're usually smaller business that are cash intensive. So it's easier for these monies to float in. After the money's into this business, then I can get monies out because there's a recording system, there's a bank account that this business has. So it's now legally into the financial system. And when I get it out, I can now use it because it's clean and I could integrate it, which is the laundering of funds, reintroduce into the economy. And I could pay my light bill, my water bill, my children's school fee. So now the money is clean. So that's the 3 steps of money laundering using the offense of drug trafficking.
You didn't give us a case, so give us a case on drug trafficking. Give us what drug trafficking is, and then a case. If you don't have one, just say I don't have it, but that's what you would need to get full points.
Okay,
Everything
great.
else you did was correct, but you would need a real life case to get full points. Sean Isaacs, 90 Knowles, the white major, all those police officers last week. Or this week. Yeah, you need one of those.
This week. Okay, so I would need a case that looks at drug trafficking with money laundering, the combination, like how 90 Knowles would take his monies and buy construction equipment. Then he would do
you just need to
job.
You just need to go online and get some details of the case. Just like how they told us about the case on Michelle Reckley, you need to go get that case on 90 or any of those police officers from last week.
Okay, excellent. So there are some 21 crimes under money laundering, and they range from fraud to theft to counterfeit, drug dealing, corruption, bribery, breach sanctions, smuggling. All these crimes have an element of money laundering because of the cycle it uses in order to incorporate or integrate monies, dirty monies, back into a legitimate financial system. As a result of money laundering methods changing over time, legislations in respective countries, in the Bahamas is no different, had to be upgraded to deal with these associated risks with money laundering and their criminal offenses, as well as general compliance rules and regulations in order to keep pace with this changing world of money laundering. Our next point is the terrorist financing, which are individuals and groups of individuals who act beyond the normal societal framework, by engaging in different terrorist activities. And I have to note at this point is that terrorist financing is a bit different than the money launderer. The money launderer goes through that cycle, but when the integration portion of terrorist financing occurs is where the money goes back, is integrated into the terrorist activities. And the main purpose of terrorist financing is not to get rich, it's simply to finance the terrorist activities.
No,
So
it's
that's
ideological. You would say it's ideological. The motivation is
ideological.
ideological, and the motivation is to gain profit on the money laundering side.
Okay, correct.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's ideological. Okay, thank you for that.
Mhm.
So terrorist fundings can come from legitimate and illegitimate source. Some of them get financing from nonprofit organizations or charities, criminal activities, or honeypots. These are the shell companies that they have financing through. And they can come from legitimate funding sources such as business ownership, personal employment, government, relief funds. There's some terrorist groups that actually get relief funds in their financing. But their unlawful source of fundings include extortion, kidnapping, smuggling, ID theft, drug trafficking, fraud, theft, and robbery.
Okay, but if you were going to you were going to need real life cases to support them.
Okay.
Okay, because if you're going to if the question asks you, because there's going to be about 3 money laundering cases. Okay, so first it'll be on the crimes. If you talk about drug trafficking, you need a case. If you talk about tax evasion and extortion and all those, you need a case. You explain what the definition is, and then you need a case. And then there could be a question on compare and contrast the differences. I think that's page 24 in your books on money laundering versus terrorist financing. And that's where you talk about ideological versus gain and the motivation and the amount of money and what have you.
Okay, so the last point we had, as my group talked about it, we didn't remember it being discussed, but we did some research, a little research anyway. It was the proliferation financing. And this is basically the terrorist financing that goes even further, where the money is not only pushed into general terrorist activity.
No. It's weapons, proliferation of weapons. It's not terrorist financing. It's completely different.
Okay, so it's the financing of weapons. I was going to get into that financing of weapons that can cause mass destruction, like chemical, biological, radiological. Yes.
Right.
So that was the last point to our question. Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
great. Okay, good. Very thorough. Very good. Yeah, and that's what the lady, I forget. Christina could have just said you wasn't here and you was going to speak. At the beginning.
My apologies. It was last minute, and I felt bad. I was letting them down, so I have I'd jump in. But that was our agreement that I would have done it.
Okay.
That would yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay, great. So okay, guys. That ends our review. Do you have any questions? So again, basically, the whole purpose is that you understand how to answer these questions. Okay, because like I said, it's very easy to go on and on. Because what do we do when we do research? Go look at the first essay and pull out. This talks about customer due diligence. Let's pull out that first paragraph and answer that. That won't work. Like I said, the book is your guide. Listen to the recordings. Whatever you would have done for homework, if you did customer due diligence like this last homework, that should be one of the questions that you answer unless you didn't do very well. If you did risk, then answer the risk question. If you did money placement, there's a question there. You can't just copy and paste what you did for homework, but a lot of the information will be the same as to what you need to put into your answer. So you should already have one question to the side that for sure I got 100% on placement, so I'm doing this money laundering. And Adelie just went through the 3 types of questions that they could ask you about money laundering. So I would answer all. Okay, the information is in the book or on the recording, and minimal research you should need to do, but don't go far south and end up with information overload. Because that's my take after this review session. Okay, you want to scale it down and you want to make sure you understand what the question is asking. And like I said, most of the questions have 3 parts. We just answer the first 2 parts and we forget about the 3rd part. Make sure you answer all parts of the question so you could get full points. Okay. Any questions or concerns? No? Okay, well, Ms. Dean will be there if you do plan to go on to the intermediate section. You can call before you get to the exam and register, or you can speak to Ms. Dean when you get to the exam and register for the intermediate section, which is the next step. But if you don't plan to go on, if Ms. Bullock, this was too much and I don't ever want to hear your voice again, I truly understand. I just encourage you to, stay current, stay with your industry briefings and updates, choose your career path. And even if you had your degree from 1999, always refresh yourself, always read the newspaper and network, because that's the way of the world. Even in Canada, the other day I got a phone call and one of my colleagues says, we have to do a speed dating type of arrangement with the junior persons because they're complaining that there's no way to move up. And this is in Canada. I said, oh, I thought this was only in the Bahamas. They said, no, they've had thousands of complaints from entry-level staff saying that they've been on the front line for 5 years and they can't move up. Not that they're not qualified, but simply because nobody knows them. And so the executive team have, they've brainstormed and tried to come up with ideas. So, the entry level, the names will be known. And so they're doing like a speed dating entry level versus execs and mentoring. And they have a few initiatives going on. And I thought it was very interesting. So like I said, read the newspaper. So when you have those water cooler conversations, you speak knowledgeably to these issues that's happening in our country or in the world. Attend the civic organizations and don't just show up, carry somebody with you, introduce yourselves, get to know the movers and shakers of corporate Bahamas. And it's not that, somebody needs to mentor you and then in turn you will mentor somebody. Okay. And I always say if there are 4 weekends in a month, we can rage and party for 3 weekends, 1 weekend. These same people that you rage and party with, beckon them to brainstorm with you. What can we do for our country? What can we do for ourselves? How do we make a job? How do we create income? There are 4 weeks. Even though we may get paid once a month or every week, 1 paycheck. The Chinese, they live on 20%, they save 80%. So 1 paycheck, try to save 50%, and then 60, and then see if you could get to 81, 1 paycheck. So it just starts, with trying. And what works for me is I go all the way back to the Bible, where there's no vision, the people perish. I've been writing my vision every year. I wouldn't say every single thing, but 90% of the things that I wrote, I have accomplished. And yesterday I was brainstorming with the same people I hang out with. It was our brainstorm night, and I came up with an idea and I said, I have to go and adjust my vision and all that. So by the end of 2022, I could accomplish that goal. And I only have 6 months. Okay. So it's been a pleasure. All of you in my network, when you all see Miss Bullet, please, you all don't play like you all don't know me. I hope to see you, if not in the next step, wherever in the corporate world. Okay. And so all the best to you in the exam. Like I said, you have enough information to fully prepare you for it. It calls for organization. Arrange your time now. Get off from work early, have the day off, speak to your husbands and wives and the children, Mummy off this week. For the rest of the week, no cooking, no cleaning, just books, okay? And then prepare your celebration, okay? Because it's a lot of information. It's very complex and it requires a lot. So you have to be in a peaceful frame of mind to retain it, to be able to apply it to in your organization. So don't be afraid to, ask for help so you are fully organized. Okay, that's my 5 cents. That might have feel like 10, but that was 5. Okay, and so if there's no further questions or concerns, I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You all have a good evening.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
good
Okay, thank you all.
Thank
Good night.
you. Good night,
Good
and thank
night.
you.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.